What we're going to be doing is talking about a topic today that I would wager is applicable to any organization that is represented here at reInvent. And that is to say, if you're thinking about running your business on the cloud, you need to be thinking about how you're improving the trust and the confidence in your data that rests within the cloud. And ultimately, if you really think about the business cases that are tied to the initial cloud transformation investment, it always comes back to things like how do we increase velocity to analytics or insights based on what we can do with the data? How do we reduce operational costs? Or how do we get our hands around critical security and compliance measures? And so thinking about data integrity and the level of trust that we have with the data within our cloud run business is critically important. And over the next 15 minutes or so, what I'd like to get across is really three things. Number one, what is data integrity and why is it essential to the modern data and analytics stack? Number two, we're going to talk about some of the common challenges that organizations have on their data integrity journey and how they're mitigating against that. So I'm going to be sharing some best practices that we see from our customers and the organizations that we work with. And then thirdly, I'm going to talk about how Precisely and AWS are collaborating together to build a suite of capabilities that ultimately help organizations unlock data integrity within their companies. So with that, let's go ahead and jump in. My name's Cam Ogden, and I'm VP of Product Management at Precisely. And many of you are familiar with Precisely, but for those of you who are unfamiliar, our mission at Precisely is to essentially help organizations and the 12,000 or so customers that we have improve the level of trust and confidence that they have within their data. And we really do that through three different methods, so to speak. Our customers look to us to leverage a set of software capabilities, enriched, curated data products, and strategic advisory services that help them with their data integrity journey. And we work with organizations all over the world based on their unique data integrity journey, and we've been doing this for quite a while. So even though it's a newer brand, the company has a rooted long history that dates back to SingSort and Pitney Bowes Software and Data, and we have since expanded our organization over the past couple of years to include companies like Infogix, Windshuttle, and PlaceIQ. So with that, let's talk about just kind of at a macro overall zoom out level, what's the state of where cloud and data are going today? You know, if you look big picture, 85% of all organizations will be cloud first by 2025. So this is a trend that, of course, we've seen over the better part of the last decade or so, but it's going to continue to accelerate through the middle of this coming decade and potentially beyond that as well. 9 out of 10 organizations are running their data and analytics innovation in the cloud. And then this last statistic I think is pretty interesting, which is roughly 3/4 of all applications that are being run in the modern enterprise are geared towards front office or business users because they really are focused on low-code or no-code user experiences. If you think about where this is coming from, this is all about this rush to get front office workers and non-technical personas closer to the data so that they can leverage greater power from it. But there's an issue here, and there's a gap. Even though that there's a lot of good innovation and transformation that's happening in these areas and will continue to do so, there's this gap, and there's kind of a messy data gap, if you will. So even though there's a lot of innovation happening in going to the cloud and making sure that we're putting the right infrastructure and platform and software as a service in place, it doesn't necessarily improve the data. It doesn't improve the data trust, it doesn't improve the data confidence, it doesn't improve the overall data integrity. And either yourself or the stakeholders that you work with are likely getting these responses as part of the journey. We're hearing from business users and other folks that are working with data, we can't get data at the speed that we need it. We don't understand its provenance or its origin and where it comes from. We don't know if it's accurate or trustworthy. And these are probably statements that resonate within your organization or somebody that you know within your organization. But the bottom line is that they just can't trust the data that they need to use in order to make better decisions. If we think back to that initial business case around cloud transformation, we're unable to unlock that if we have these messy data problems. So we know what this creates is a vacuum and a need to improve the accuracy, consistency, and context of the data that we use to drive better business decision making. And so if you think about cloud transformation and being a cloud run business, there's this gap, there's this missing layer. And so what we're going to do is talk about why has that layer been so elusive? Why has it been so challenging? Well, if we think about the traditional method and the traditional tools that have been in place over the past couple of years, we can see some of the problems that have happened with this journey. And this is an iteration, so it's all part of, we're going in the right direction, but why have the traditional methods and solutions failed? Number one, data has been locked up in silos. It's been gate-kept by those that are closest to the data as opposed to being available to the folks that need it and really understand it the most in terms of how it's being used by the business. Most organizations are given a choice of either investing in monolithic platforms or in loosely coupled point solutions that don't have really an integrated experience. There's increased cost of data being pushed and moved all over the organization, as well as the increased security and data protection risk that goes along with that, and a number of other problems that you see here that may or may not resonate with you. But what we're seeing from best practice organizations is that there's really a better path that some of the customers that we're working with are starting to discover. And they're investing in how they collaborate more efficiently between IT, business, and business data users and knowledge workers. They ultimately now are asking for choice of just the interoperable capabilities that they need that they can scale up and down. So as opposed to having bloated shelfware or software that they don't use, that they have to dust off a couple of years down the road, they just want to be able to pay and leverage the capabilities that they need. They want to be able to work with the data without having to move it all over the place. So essentially keep the data where it resides and make sure that workflows bring users in and out of the platform so that they can access it when they need it. Certainly support for streaming is paramount. Then they want to make sure that they develop a business-facing data catalog in a layer that gives a unified view of what data exists and where it can be found. And then lastly, they want to make sure that they're deploying automation that helps to run the rules and the permissions and the enrichment activities in the environment. And so as we see how these trends have come along over the past couple of years, what we're doing is we're partnering with AWS to run what we call the Data Integrity Suite on AWS. And essentially, this is a SaaS-based collection of modular capabilities that addresses this missing layer, this data integrity layer between the data that sits within the cloud infrastructure and the business users that need to have access to the data to use it for their various use cases that I talked about earlier, accelerating analytics, reducing operational costs from a business process perspective, improving and de-risking security and compliance, and so on. And essentially what this suite is it's made up of a number of different modular capabilities that give users choice on what they want to use and how they want to use it. And essentially what this does is this addresses the data delivery cycle so that they can engineer and ship data integrity within their organization, ultimately taking data as it rests out of their cloud ecosystem and make it available for users as they need data products for various business use cases. And I'll just go through these very quickly, but if you're interested in seeing a demo of this, we're at booth 2852, which is just past Deep Racer over there. So data integration is essentially a seamless way on how we can replicate data from complex data environments, including mainframe environments, which is a part of our organization legacy. So we have the ability to access complex mainframe files and structures like vSAM, IMS, and also non-mainframe environments, essentially any data source, and replicate it into AWS or streaming environments, cloud data warehouses, or data lakehouses. Data observability, once we land it into a target, we can start to observe what data changes and how it impacts the organization. So let's say that we have a key customer table that we use to gain insights around a customer 360 report. If we have address fields or name or personally identifiable information that changes in that environment through our streaming service, we know when that data changes and we can be alerted. And on top of that, data observability will give us predictability on when that data might change in the future so that we can get ahead of future events. As we're doing that, we want to make sure that we're establishing data governance rules and policies to govern the data in a way that enables a business. So we don't want to constrain the business, and typically the mistake with data governance in the past is it was too much command and control, not enough enablement and not enough value generation. Data quality, once we know what critical data is in place, data quality, we can use it to deploy different cleansing routines And the power with the data integrity suite, and part of what we offer with the enrichment products that we provide, is we can also enrich our data quality pipelines as we're cleaning and transforming the data without having to move it into the data integrity suite SaaS cloud environment. So we can keep the data where it resides. Geo-addressing helps us verify and standardize addresses that are used for important customers, vendors, even employees. Spatial analytics helps us really supercharge the analytics and the intelligence that we have by providing views on how different location intelligent data assets can be brought together, like point of interest information or boundary information or different consumer data. And then underneath all of it, we have our data enrichment assets, which can be used at any point in this pipe or in this flow. So we have thousands of different data enrichment assets that have been curated that our customers use, and essentially can be called as a service to be used within their workflow. Underpinning all of this is a foundation that has, I think, really 4 real critical capabilities. Number one, in the past with data catalogs, the challenge has been we need to go out and we need to point a discovery service at the data that exists in the organization, and then that will catalog it for us. But wouldn't it be great if just by working with the data, so just by setting up a replication pipeline, or just by running a data quality rule, or just by formulating a data governance policy next to a table or a field or a particular asset, we can catalog that data naturally. And then from that, we can lift business semantics out of it and provide it to all users within the platform, technical, business, or data users, and that's what the data catalog does. The suite has an intelligent core at the foundation as well, and this is something that customers are starting to deploy more and more as they look for recommendations that ultimately help shorten their workflows and their jobs to be done across the suite. We leverage deployment agents so that our customers can essentially connect the suite to either their cloud environments, on-prem, or hybrid solution. And then we have a data flow designer that essentially automates workflows across the suite based on how you're working with the data. And what this does, if I come back around to the business use cases that I talked about at the beginning of the session, is with the suite, you can start to build a number of different recipes for how you're going to work with the data within your organization. So let's say, as an example, we're segmenting products across different disparate business units, geographies, and brands. And from that, what we want to do is we want to get a single view of customer purchase history and buying power. In the past, that tends to be a pretty labor-intensive problem that we have to go out and solve. We have to understand what data exists. We have to make sure that we centralize it into our analytics environment. Then we have to make sure that we enrich it through some sort of third-party service. And then we want to govern it in catalog so that we can leverage those data assets later. But in the suite, we can do that as part of a common workflow with this recipe across integration, geo-addressing, and data governance. If we take a look at another view, let's say if we need to get a single place for how do we see the activity for how our customers have worked with us with previous services and products, and we want to make sure that we can have good, tight communication with our customers so that we can engage with them with cross-sell and upsell. Data governance and observability and quality is kind of a natural pattern that we see from our customers as they're using data engineers and data stewards and business users to collaborate together on what data is important to them and how they serve it up so that they can improve their target marketing and consumer personalization activity. So overall, I want to go back to the 3 things that I mentioned at the beginning of our session. I hope that what you're able to take away is that data integrity is certainly an important part of the cloud transformation in the cloud-first business journey. Just by going on the transformation itself doesn't necessarily make sure that it doesn't ensure that we can get our hands around the messy data problems that exist within the organization. And there's a bit of this missing layer that needs to be in place that gives us custody, that helps us improve the confidence and trust that we have in the data. But that tends to be a difficult problem to solve when you think about legacy environments or systems and solutions that have been built over time that are now getting centralized within the cloud ecosystem. But the Data Integrity Suite brings together a number of different capabilities into a single SaaS solution that helps customers really get their hands around their accuracy, consistency, and context of the data that they need to use to run their business. And the last piece is that every data integrity journey is different. So we have a strategic services organization that works with customers all the way from the original business case to executing on on their data integrity roadmap, so that the customer can ultimately find success in whatever journey that they have along the way. So if you'd like to see more, we would love to have you over for a demo. We're at booth 2852. Look for the big, precisely purple booth, and I think that's my time. So thanks everyone for listening.